Gary, what's up? Thanks for responding to that article and also to this video about solipsism. I think maybe you misunderstood what I was trying to really get across in that video, and it's okay because I was kind of disorganized in the way I was trying to talk about it, but I was trying to find a way out of solipsism, a way out of everything reducing to subjectivity, a way out of the idea that we are a corrupted perspective that cannot get outside itself and observe the truth for what it is. I'm trying to find a way out of that trap. I'm trying to avoid solipsism. And the way that I was trying to do it was by changing how we understand life, and by saying that what thinking is, the kind of thinking that matters in reality at least, the kind of thinking that is synonymous with activity, with what an organism does to survive and reproduce and enjoy itself, because part of survival is enjoyment. I think if there's no enjoyment, there's no need to survive. There's nothing worth surviving for. And I think this is where the reductionistic biologists, who see life as nothing more than the means of transportation of a genetic code which lies at the basis of life, and so it's really the genes that are in control, and everything else, all the activities of the organism, all its emotions and its culture, it's all a byproduct, an accidental side effect of this essential genetic core. I think that's a bit reductionistic, because that neglects that simple fact, I would say, that without enjoyment of life, there's no need for survival, or you could not have an organism which desired to survive. There's got to be a reason survival is enjoyable. And so when you admit that, all of a sudden the organism as a whole becomes just as important as the genetic code. And when we start to look at life this way, as something that doesn't need to represent a world outside itself, so in other words, an organism doesn't have a mind separate from its body that observes the world and objectively decides how to respond to it. A few minutes ago there were flocks of birds just flying around the sky, and somehow they all stay together and move like they're just mirroring each other instantaneously. And so there's like a connection between each of the individual birds that has nothing to do with a causal representational activity in their brains. In other words, they're not thinking really hard about how to follow what their comrades are doing. They're just part of a larger mental entity at that point. Intelligence isn't a computational process. It's not that an organism has to build an internal model of the outside world in order to know it. The outside world is already there. The organism is in that world. And so we don't have to model it internally. It's there for us. But one of the consequences of this shift in what life is, and therefore what cognition is, and granted, humans are special in a sense because they have language. All other animals, all other organisms don't have language, but this is what gets human beings confused when they try to understand what life is. Not only nature out there, but human life. We overemphasize language as this special human quality, which I think you would say, Gary, is what allows us to have intelligence. What allows us to be objective is the fact that we can step outside of experience and describe it in words in a way that's somehow higher or gets more to the essence of what's really going on than just the appearance of the world itself. And because we can do this as human beings, we assume that that somehow indefinitely removes us from the natural world. We are no longer, stupid like nature out there. We have this magical ability to control ourselves and the world and make it better. We know good from evil objectively, somehow. Language, the ability to, rationally analyze nature, to know it in a way that has nothing to do with our activity within it, and in fact as nature itself. It's a knowledge that's outside all of that corruption, as you would call it. It's in that way it's supernatural, and that's why I can't find room for an intellect uncorrupted by emotions, because I don't look at it as corruption. Language somehow fools human beings into the hallucination that they were separate from the world and that they could stand outside it and know it objectively and control it rationally with a God's eye view. Language tricks us into that illusion when really we're nothing but, or no different from any other animal, any other plant even, maybe more complex, but our essential activity of being alive and acting in a world and accomplishing our goals and enjoying ourselves is no different than any other organism on the planet. Language is just another biological activity. Peacocks have all this plumage and it allows them to go through this elaborate, almost cultural mating activity. Language is just a complexification of that same mating activity. But this isn't to reduce culture to sex. It's just to elevate sex to something far more profound than we usually perceive it as. But I think I went a lot of directions in this video, but basically with my videos about inactivism and solipsism and all these crazy words, I'm just trying to find a new space for thought that doesn't involve objectivity versus subjectivity, because I think that's a dead end. I think we have to make a huge assumption to think that there was such a thing as a subjective ego that could be, outside the world somehow, such that it could view it from a distance and really, intellectually grasp the true world in itself. I think that's impossible. It's an illusion of language, and that our real embodied experience as actual physical human beings living amongst other human beings that demand our attention, in a natural world that gave rise to us and sustains us, it's a lot harder to step outside of that and view it objectively. And I don't think once we've really situated ourselves in this natural world that we would want to take ourselves out of it. It kind of misses the point of being alive. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks for your response. I always enjoy them.